time blocking is just organization, but on a calendar.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And so it's a thematicized journey. You want to get into flow. Everyone gets into flow differently. I personally like quiet time to get into flow and no phone calls. So I have to block that off and leave my cell phone and stop. So I notice that those who time block get more done, uber focused, and then they peace out on, they can ebb and they can flow. It's like watching the ocean come in and out. They focus and then they leave, and they take care of themselves that way.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I was just talking with Sonya Weisshappel. She is joining us on the show today. And Sonya has a really unique business. She helps high net worth clients, family offices, and she's going to expand on this list. But she helps people understand and help them through transition and helps eliminate chaos in her life. She has two companies, Seriatim and Chaos Whisperer. And she has been doing this for a long time. And I'm really excited to dive into it with her today and learn more about the importance of knowing what you own. Sonya, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, my first question is always the same. Who are you and how'd you get to where you are today?
I'm Sonya Weisshappel, and I was a product of the Air Force. My family traveled a lot. We moved, we unpacked. And I came to learn how to do that a long time ago from childhood. I have an aunt who's an architect, a mom who's in real estate, and an uncle who's commercial real estate, and another who's geriatric nurse. So when you put it all together, I believed that everyone understood how to take care of one's space and make one comfortable and well in their home. But after graduating from film school, I realized people did not know how to do that. And I started a business at 22.
That's awesome. You know, honestly, I'm not even sure I still understand it. So explain it to me again for the audience, what you do, because what you do is, I think, really, really important, right? You're helping people in a season of transition. You're eliminating chaos. But you even just said something before we hopped on. It's important to know what you own. And I've just never even thought about that I would ever be in a position where, God forbid, if I was to kick the bucket, I don't even know what belongs to me. But I'm assuming for someone who is ultra high net worth, and you mentioned it, potentially a few marriages, they've been on different continents, but to help us understand like what it is that you do.
So as a professional organizer, people always think that means color coding and Marie Kondo and making little nice squares of one's underwear and just keeping track of life. I don't care about that as much. That's 101. You've got to make it pretty and feel good. However, putting it in order and making it so that your trusted advisors, your wealth manager, your legal, and your real estate agent all understand what you have and where it's going to go post-mortem is really the organizing my team does. We inventory your tangible assets, your clothing, your furniture, your jewelry. Then we get to paperwork, and then we do memorabilia. So there's 3 piles: assets, files, and memorabilia. And so it's figuring out what you have and then making a plan around, are we keeping it? Are we passing it along? Do they know they're getting it? Great. And then if they're not passing it along, are we selling it or are we donating it? And all of those decisions in each of those categories has a logistical piece to it.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done for 32 years is solve people's problems that they didn't solve during their living time. So clearly,
Okay. So are people hiring you in anticipation of this event? Are they hiring you once someone has kicked the bucket? Like when is that happening?
So they hire us both. So Seriatim for 3 decades has handled the problem, has been in crisis management for whatever upheaval and whatever problem they've had with their tangible assets, their paperwork, or their memorabilia. We've solved it.
Mm.
But because of 3 decades of experience, and because I see that people really don't want to be in those crises and certainly do not want to leave those crises to their family or their children,
Mm.
I've developed a second company, which is Chaos Whisperer, which is all about preparing and having those conversations from everything that we've learned on the other side. Because the Venn diagram of the two, people don't talk about it. Most people's family doesn't know the password even to get into someone's computer, let alone where their bank accounts, or why a certain trinket might actually be important to you. And so when someone's cleaning out your estate, they're like, oh, that's just a nothing trinket, but it might have been the most sentimental object in your world. And if you don't catalog the stories, you don't take stock of both the financial and the emotional aspects of assets, files, or memorabilia, it's lost.
Do you have a story like that, by the way? Because I know you do. You picked up the little paperweight on your desk. Is there a story where it's like, oh, this is a nothing, but it wound up being really, really important to the deceased or to the person that cared about it?
I have a whole book of those stories. I do, because so often people don't know the values of what surrounds them. And people, for example, clearing out trying in a downsize, clearing out, there was a little object that sat on someone's desk, and the spouse said, that's nothing, donate it. The husband said, I love that, and then it became their little fight over it. And finally, it's like, okay, let's have the appraiser figure it out when they walk through to sell the other things that you're willing to sell. And it ends up that piece was worth many tens of thousands of dollars. And had it just gone to donation, it would have been lost. And so they never had it on their appraisals. It was just something that went up in value, but no one was keeping track of it. But when you have things like that and you pass away, sometimes those accidental assets push your tax bracket or push situations where suddenly you're dealing with problems that you created by not preparing.
I'm just thinking, because as a financial advisor by trade, I'm thinking about it like the long-term care, conversation with my clients. A lot of times people don't want to have that conversation unless they've had to deal with somebody who's been in long-term care, in
That's
which
right.
case it's really, really important, right? They recognize how important it is, because how all consuming that type of situation can be and how expensive it is, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm just thinking, and maybe help us understand, like, who are the types of clients you serve? Are they super wealthy, billionaires? Are they like, where does it make sense to hire someone like you?
I would say middle class all the way up to the uber high net worth. We work for billionaires, we work for old money, but we also work for people who are middle of the road, but every penny counts. And you need to understand what's there and make a plan around how it's going to be transferred. So in the financial world, tangible assets are not tracked. Bank accounts, investments, all of the liquid accounts are tracked, but tangible is left behind. And if you put a sticker for every object in one's room, I have a picture. This picture is family peace. Maybe it's $500, maybe it's no dollars, but happens to be sterling, so I know it's more. But it becomes one of those situations where you start, if it all disappeared, I'm taking a very big download out of my bank account to pick up what I did not properly insure. And most people, by not knowing what they own, they're underinsured by about 30%. And since we've done more than 8,000 inventories in our, since we've been tracking them, I can tell you that when you compare the tally of what's at the bottom line of what someone's tangible assets are worth and to their insurance policy, hands down, always about 30% off.
Dang.
And that means that they're really out of luck when the fire or flood or burglary happens.
So it sounds like actually the tangible objects in our households that we see every day and interact with, those might actually be the trickiest part of this equation, whereas something like real estate or a bank account is a lot easier.
Very much so. Those are traditional. And that's my whole point with Chaos Whisperer, is that you don't know what you own, mitigate the risk. It's like going to the doctor. How can you ask the doctor? How could someone come to you and ask you to make a proper plan for them if you didn't have their blood work, if you didn't know actually what's there? You know what's in the bank account, you know what they said they have, but that's what they said they have, not what they actually have. And that's a very big discrepancy. And I've seen it for 30 years. I've watched it for 30 years from the trenches and my team across the country in and out of people's homes.
Sonia, the notion of this podcast is the Big Hitters podcast. And so I'm actually really curious to hear this question answered in a different light, because you work with so many high net worth clients and people that either new money, old money. Do you notice any sort of a trend, with those high net worth clients, like how they got to where they are, how they accumulated the wealth that they have? Do you see any sort of trend or something that you can impart to the audience that they could take away from this?
There's a lot of generational heirlooms that get passed. There's a lot of stories and legacies that come down. And there hands down for my clients, there's a lot of respect around what one owns. They respect their time and they respect their space. And so when you respect those things, you take care of them. And when you take care of them, you value putting things in order. That's what I've seen.
That's fascinating. I needed to stew on that for a second. Okay. Let's keep going. So you mentioned time. So time is something really important to me. I had a mental breakdown as a result of my first business. On the way to the mental health institution, I picked up a copy of a book called Buy Back Your Time.
One of my favorites.
Okay. So time and energy freedom is a big deal. What does it mean to you? And then talk about how you've either achieved it or seen other people achieve it.
Buy back your time. Time blocking is just organization, but on a calendar. That's all it is. And so it's a thematicized journey. You want to get into flow. Everyone gets into flow differently. I personally like quiet time to get into flow and no phone calls. So I have to block that off and leave my cell phone and stop. So I notice that those who time block get more done, uber focused, and then they peace out on, they can ebb and they can flow. It's like watching the ocean come in and out. They focus and then they leave and they take care of themselves that way. And I've done it. I've been completely overwhelmed and I find that I'm not breathing deeply. The phone's ringing, the text going off, the emails going, someone's at the door, kids saying something. It's like like your hair's aflame. And those are always the time when I have to just stop and sit and Like, what is the true emergency? Is it that I created the emergency, or is there really a blood moment in this scenario? And often there's not. So everyone just stop for a second and let's just breathe and come together. Because if you don't focus, you do things less intentionally and with less respect to what you're doing. Did that help answer your
It
question?
did, yeah. And you mentioned something really interesting earlier. You mentioned that the super wealthy value their time differently, and I was curious to know what do you mean by that?
They, working in homes of extreme wealth, what I have seen is they leverage their time. They will have people about, they will have people who help them, whether it's an executive assistant, a gardener, someone who cooks a meal, someone who drives them, whatever it is. There's some daily function that is outsourced. And then there's absolute, you cannot reach them at certain times. They just stop. Whereas someone else, like a hungry business entrepreneur, trying to get one's business, you're available 24/7 because you're fishing. You've got more poles in the water. But someone who has already made their wealth and is established, they don't need that level of hustle. So they take the time for self-care.
That's really good. What's the most interesting memorabilia collection that you've had to categorize?
Well, you always see the salt and pepper shakers, and you see like I, I would say my husband's fishing lures.
Really? Huh.
It is lures and decoys in the tens of thousands, and he absolutely loves it. And they're, each one of them are these beautiful little wooden and metal pieces of art. And that has been a labor of love for years, where we built a whole wall that you can put them on a dowel, and he hangs them all up because he used to have them all packed in the closet, and he'd take one out and tell you the story about this one and open it up, and then he'd wrap it back up and put it in the closet, but he didn't enjoy it. And so by organizing it and putting it out on display, not only does he enjoy it, but everyone who comes by will learn one or two things more than they ever needed to know about fishing lures.
What's something unexpected that you often have to categorize that people don't think about?
Their collections.
Mm-hmm.
Their collections. You know, some people have hair art. Some people have quilts. Some people have kitchen utensils. You know, ephemera, like Americana items, cars, wine, shoes. I mean, we've had $1 million shoe collection. It's a lot of shoes, you know.
Wow.
But when you've got $1,000 a pair of shoes, you start to realize that's a lot of shoes. Books,
Yeah.
Books are fun. We have one client now who's an author, and over 10,000 books are about to be moved. So people have fun stuff. But we also had one client with a tremendous amount of outsider art, which is a unique look.
Let's talk about artificial intelligence. How are you using it now? Where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
We use it now for kind of double checking some of our internal work and helping write some pieces. That has been good practice. We haven't launched anything out. We're using it more inside, but I I now know that I have so much data under my care and control. So there is a hope to be able to wipe it clean and not have any names or addresses or anything, but to look for patterns.
Mm.
AI is pattern hunting, I
Where
think.
do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
In the inventory process, AI is becoming more and more helpful to be able to photograph something and it can tell you what it is.
Hmm.
That's really helpful. The only thing is it gets it wrong. So there's a lot of cleanup from that. So it's new, it's in its infancy, but it is a renaissance of it. So it's quite exciting. I've always loved technology. When I lived through September 11th down on a block away. And after that, I realized that nothing can be paper based. Everything has to be in the cloud because I
Hmm.
was locked out of my office for the weeks post September 11th. That was really hard, and my home. So I started putting things in the cloud, and that really became a pattern. And working through that technology and working through keeping the data in certain ways and the cleanliness of that data and the integrity has been an organizational project.
I bet.
It's like weeding the garden.
Uh, okay, this last question is just, you can get on whatever soapbox you want to get on. What's one thing that we haven't talked about today that you want to talk about?
Legacy. I think that people do not think about legacy as much. And I think with your world in dollars, people make dollars to have dollars so that they can buy things or they can experience things. And if you don't block your time properly, you don't get the joy of those things. But then to pass it along without the stories, without the legacy of why it was so important to you and how your family fits together, who your ancestors were and why and what they did, to show people their legacy of their family tree, to show the legacy of if if you created a business or something, like what does it mean to you, and thus why did you do it? Those questions aren't often explored. We
Yeah.
get into the little bits of oh yeah, I'm doing this and this and this, but it's not the why
Mm.
and it's not the how it gets done. And so
Mm.
that piece I really feel is the difference between living a good life and living a superb life.
Mm.
And
That's
having your family appreciate what you did.
yeah, that's really good. Sonia, I guess last question, let's assume a very average estate. I know that's probably a tricky question for you, but like, how long would it take for you to create your system, like start to finish? Yeah, that's the question.
Well, since we have a lot of data points in our thing, I know that an average estate or an average scenario is about 100 hours.
Okay.
So that is someone who does not have boxes and boxes in the garage or no car in the garage, just stuff in the garage or a basement and an attic that no one has visited for
Mm.
decades. This is someone who lives like it's an Airbnb and they have things nicely curated in their world. No problem. In and out in 100 hours. When you start adding bulk in there, normally every 10 years, every decade that someone has lived in their space, it goes up exponentially.
Mm.
So 10, 20, 30. So when you say someone's lived in their home for 30 years, That means wait. They don't know what's in the back of the drawers, the back of the closets, in the attic, or in the basement. They don't know. Under 10 years, they just got there and they've worked it through. Unless there was a death of a family member in that mix, in which case there's normally an onslaught of someone else's stuff into their world. It's like you. What's an average person? What's an average?
Yeah, I mean, very typical is like 1 to 3 million of investable assets.
Right.
Very typical. Yeah.
Right. So 1 to 3 million would be around that for us, about 100 hours.
Gotcha. If people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Our website, Seriatim, SERIATIM.net.
And is there some sort of like a preliminary meeting that you'll do, or some sort of a discovery call that is free of charge?
Always.
Okay.
It's always, we want to know the stories. We want to understand where someone's at. And so myself and my team will happily have those conversations, because it's, where are you? And really, it is about matching who you are with what you own and making sure that it's protected for as long as you want it.
That's awesome. Sonia, thanks so much for taking time with us today.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.